She climbed through those ropes carrying a secret that should have shut the entire arena down before the first bell ever rang. 3 days without a single meal. A world title on the line. And a pregnancy hidden underneath the weigh-in, underneath the gloves, underneath the lights that nobody in that building knew about. Not the commission. Not the crowd. Not the woman standing in the opposite corner. If even half of what just surfaced is true, we are not dealing with a boxing controversy tonight. We are dealing with one of the most alarming hidden stories this sport has ever produced, buried in plain sight for years. And the only reason it finally came out is because a best friend got on a live stream and burned the whole house down from the inside. And somehow, that is not even the most shocking thing that happened this week. Because in the very same breath of news, the blogger that Claressa Shields sent her lawyers after stood in front of her audience, apologized for exactly one sentence, and then spent the next 15 minutes delivering the most specific, most calculated, most devastating breakdown of Claressa Shields' personal life that the internet has ever witnessed. The apology covered a caption about weed. That is the entire list. Everything else was left standing untouched. And by the end of it, the woman who got sued turned around and defended Claressa Shields against the very person who exposed her. You could not script this. A studio would reject this plot for being too unbelievable. 2 legal letters, 1 friendship in ashes, a decade-old fight suddenly under a microscope, and a champion standing in the middle of all of it. Allegedly the last person to know the terms of her own life. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, understand something early, we do not traffic in whispers around here, we deal in documentation. Hit subscribe, tap that bell, because this family stays locked in when the stories get heavy. And this one is heavy. Tonight we are walking through every clip, every caption, every contradiction, and by the time we finish, you will understand why none of this is really gossip. It is about money. It is about loyalty. It is about a champion who may have been fighting wars nobody ever credited her for, in and out of the ring. Let's get into every single frame. So here is how it started. Tasha K opened her response the way nobody expected, not with an attack, but with a lawyer story. She explained that her attorneys had been going back and forth with Claressa Shields' legal team over a cease and desist, line by line, clause by clause, trying to pin down what exactly was claimed to be defamatory. And out of everything, every post, every broadcast, every headline, every caption, there was one item, one that her side conceded could be grounds for a lawsuit. A single caption her team posted suggesting Claressa Shields was out in Hawaii smoking weed with Papoose after a win. That caption came down. That caption got the apology. Everything else, the side chick framing, the body language breakdowns, the paying him to appear claim, the Jaidyn Davis detonation, none of it was retracted because in her words, none of it was wrong. And notice what she did there. She took ownership of her team's mistake on purpose. Anything they post is my fault too, she said. That sounds like accountability. It is actually armor. Because once you have claimed every error as your own and corrected the one that matters legally, every remaining claim inherits the credibility of the correction. Now stop and think about the mechanics of what she just did because this is chess, not checkers. A public apology does something very specific to a room. Disarms people. It makes the speaker look reasonable, humble, accountable, willing to take a loss in front of everyone. And a disarmed, sympathetic audience is the single most receptive audience you can possibly have for the information you are about to unload next. She gave up one sentence, the cheapest sentence she owned, the one her lawyers had already flagged as a liability, and used that surrender as a launchpad for 15 minutes of the most granular claim she has ever made about Claressa Shields. The apology was the key. What it unlocked was the entire building. And everyone watching applauded the humility right up until they realized what the humility was carrying. By then it was too late. The clip was already clipped, the quotes were already quoted, and the one-sentence retraction was doing the work of a shield for everything standing behind it. Then she replayed the Hawaii moment, and this is where the details start stacking. In the clip she described, Claressa Shields is celebrating a win, cameras rolling, Papoose beside her, and according to Tasha K, Papoose looked like a man who wanted to be anywhere else on earth. Not affectionate. Not proud. Just present, the way someone is present at a job, clocking hours, waiting for the shift to end. And listen, that description did not come out of nowhere because people have been clocking this exact energy for months. The award show walk where his eyes never left the horizon. The sit-down interviews where he shared the couch but not the moment. The victory celebrations where he stood inside the frame and outside the emotion. Frame after frame after frame of a man standing next to a woman he never seems to actually be with. Body language does not lie, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. But the Hawaii caption was not just about a bored-looking boyfriend. Underneath it sat the marijuana situation, and this is where the timeline gets genuinely uncomfortable. According to what Tasha K laid out after the fight, a mouth swab came back showing a small presence of weed. The very next day, a urine test came back clean. Now here is why that matters and why her team treated it like dynamite. A swab measures hours. A urine test measures days. Which means whatever registered in Claressa Shields' system was there in that narrow window, right around the fight itself, and she maintains she never put it there. She is reportedly fighting the suspension right now. So either the test lied or something got into her system without her knowledge, and both of those possibilities are the kind that keep a story alive for months, because neither of them has a boring explanation. A fighter with everything to lose does not gamble a title reign on something with a detection window measured in hours. Somebody around that camp has questions to answer, and so far nobody is answering them. And then came the line that detonated the comment sections. Tasha K said it flat, no hedging, no allegedly attached to the relationship part, that Claressa Shields is technically dating a married man, which in her framing makes her a champion and a side chick at the exact same time. 2 titles, 1 woman, and only one of them comes with a belt. Papoose is still legally married to Remy Ma. That is not rumor, that is paperwork, and paperwork does not care about captions. And on top of that, she called the situation thirsty, said the quiet part loud, and then dropped the claim that reframed this entire relationship in a single stroke. She said Claressa Shields is paying him to show up, paying him to walk beside her, paying him to be in that ring when the cameras flash. An appearance fee. Let's be very clear about what an appearance fee actually is, because words matter here. Appearance fees are for entertainers. They are for people who clock in, perform, and clock out. Appearance fees are for hosts, for features, for club walkthroughs on a Thursday night. Appearance fees are not for partners. Nobody invoices the person they love. Nobody hands their heart a rate card. And the financial backdrop makes this claim land even harder, because according to the reporting that has circulated, Papoose has 13 years of unpaid taxes hanging over him, allegedly once pawned Remy's bracelet for quick cash, moved into Claressa Shields' apartment, and drives her car. Stack those facts next to the phrase appearance fee, and a pattern starts forming that no romantic caption can cover. If the ringside support comes with a rate card, then what exactly is being purchased? Because affection that shows up on an invoice is not affection. It is a transaction dressed in relationship clothing. And that is the question sitting over this entire story like a storm cloud that refuses to move. Now here is where the video took a turn nobody saw coming, and I need you to lock in because this is the pivot the entire internet is still talking about. Mid-apology, with no transition and no warning, Tasha K told Claressa Shields to redirect that cease and desist away from her, and send it to her own best friend instead. She said she would literally forward the legal letter to the best friend's lawyer herself, free of charge, postage paid, because in her words, that woman is out here spilling everything. And then, with a warning attached, viewer discretion advised, she said, "You will be triggered by this." She played the audio. And what came out of that speaker was not gossip. It was Jaidyn Davis on a live alleging that Claressa Shields was deceived by her own coach, that things happened underage, that there were back-to-back pregnancies, that there were abortions. And Jaidyn is the one who claimed Claressa Shields fought Hanna Gabriels while pregnant, starving herself for 3 straight days to hide the weight from the scale, from the commission, from everyone. And notice the architecture of that moment because it was surgical. She did not present Jaidyn's words as breaking news she chased down. She presented them as evidence she wished did not exist, played them with a warning label, and then stepped back and let the audio do the damage on its own. The messenger stayed clean. The message did all the bleeding. That is the difference between reporting a scandal and detonating one, and everyone watching understood immediately which of the two they had just witnessed. Sit with what that means for 1 second because the sport of boxing has rules about almost everything, and this breaks nearly all of them at once. If this allegation holds, Claressa Shields did not just fight compromised, she fought in a condition that no athletic commission on this planet would ever sanction, and she did it while cutting weight in the most dangerous way imaginable. Fighters have died making weight fully healthy, fully fed, fully supervised. 3 days without food, pregnant, walking into a professional title fight. That is not a training camp, that is a medical emergency with a walkout song. But here is the part that should genuinely shake you, and it is the part almost nobody is saying out loud. Claressa Shields, in that version of events, is not the villain of this story. She is the victim of it. A young fighter, underage at the time of the alleged coach situation, failed by the adults around her, failed by the system around her, and then sent into a professional prize fight carrying a secret that could have ended her and her opponent both. When Tasha K, of all people, the self-proclaimed queen of the expose, the woman who built an empire on other people's business, looked into this and called it a case instead of content, that should tell you exactly how deep this goes. When the loudest gossip voice on the internet says something is too serious for gossip, that is the moment you stop scrolling and start listening. And understand the weight of who delivered that judgment. This is a woman who has been sued by celebrities, lost judgments, kept broadcasting, and never once flinched at a legal threat. Even she looked at this material and drew a line, telling her audience plainly, you cannot expose a child. Some stories are not content no matter how many views they would pull. That boundary, coming from her, is the loudest alarm bell in this entire saga. Louder than any headline. Because it means the material crossed a threshold that even the chaos economy respects. And there is a second victim in this frame, and her name is Hanna Gabriels. Think about that fight from her side for one moment. She dropped Claressa Shields in that bout, lost the decision, and then watched her entire career trajectory bend in a direction she never understood. She has spoken publicly about opportunities that dried up, about a rematch that never materialized, about spending years turning that night over in her head, trying to make sense of what happened to her momentum. And if this allegation is true, Hanna Gabriels was never fighting the version of Claressa Shields the commission believed it sanctioned. She was fighting a woman in a physical state nobody disclosed, on a night where the playing field was not level in a way no scouting report could have warned her about. The result does not change, the record books stay as they are, but Hanna Gabriels deserved the truth. Not because it rewrites anything, but because she has spent years searching for an answer to a question she never knew existed. Somebody owed her that, and somebody still does. Fighters accept losses. What they should never have to accept is discovering years later, through a stranger's livestream, that the loss they have been carrying might have come with fine print nobody ever read to them. Then the video reached its most surreal sequence, the moment that turned a response video into a headline of its own. Because Tasha K, mid-rant, flipped from defendant to bodyguard in a single breath. She warned Jaidyn Davis directly that if Claressa Shields ever sued her, she would lose and lose badly, because everything Jaidyn exposed was something done to Claressa, not something done by her. A victim cannot be defamed by her own victimization. And then she escalated past legal talk into something raw or something personal, asking Jaidyn over and over, what did this woman do to you? What did she possibly do to deserve this? Screaming that this was below the belt in a sport where that is the one place you are not even allowed to hit. And then she said it at full volume, laughing and furious at the same time, that if Claressa Shields ever got her hands on Jaidyn, she would whoop her and nobody could save her from it. Not the lawyers, not the live stream, not the comment section. Do you understand what just happened there? The woman holding a cease and desist from Claressa Shields used her own response video to threaten someone on Claressa Shields' behalf. The person who got sued ended up shielding the person who sued her. That is not a plot twist, that is a circle closing in on itself. And make no mistake, she meant every syllable, because as she reminded everyone in the same breath, those hands are registered weapons. And the cruel irony sitting underneath all of it is this. The person Tasha K aimed that fury at arguably inflicted more damage on Claressa Shields in one livestream than Tasha K managed in months of coverage. The enemy of your enemy is not your friend here. It is just a bigger enemy, and Tasha K spotted the difference instantly, because she knows exactly what motivated exposure looks like. She has made a career out of the honest version of it. There is a code even in chaos, and Jaidyn broke the one rule that code actually enforces. You do not weaponize what was done to somebody when they were a child. But she was not done, because after the fire came something stranger, sympathy. Real unguarded sympathy. She told Claressa Shields directly that if any of this is true, then she was a victim, full stop, no asterisk, and that this is a story people need to hear from her own mouth, because it would finally explain the thing everyone keeps circling, why she seems so desperate to be loved by a man. And then she turned the lens on Papoose himself, described the way he talks about Remy Ma, the energy he carries into every room, called him one of those overly conscious types, a hotep energy, and then landed the theory that reframed every photo, every caption, every ringside walk we have ever seen from this couple. She said she believes the only reason Papoose is popping out with Claressa Shields at all is to make Remy Ma jealous. To prove a point. To win a war that Claressa Shields is not even a soldier in. And that Claressa is not the only one. And sit with the psychology underneath that theory for a moment, because it explains years of confusion in a single frame. A woman who grew up fighting for every inch of everything, who conquered a sport that never wanted to make room for her, who reached the absolute summit of her profession, now standing next to a man whose presence has to be requested, scheduled, and allegedly compensated. When you have had to purchase everything else in your life with discipline and pain, maybe purchasing presents does not even register as strange. Maybe it just feels like one more thing that costs what it costs. That is not an insult. That is the tragedy. If that theory is even half true, then every single post Claressa Shields has ever made about this relationship was never for the fans and never for herself. It was ammunition in somebody else's war. She was not the audience for her own love story. Remy was. Every soft launch, every hard launch, every matching outfit, every victory celebration, every anniversary caption. Content for a campaign aimed at a wife who left. She thought she was documenting a relationship, and she may have been producing material for a strategy. And the most brutal part of that theory is that by every visible metric, the campaign appears to be working. Remy Ma has been responding, going live, dropping music, watching every single move, reacting to every single chapter, which would mean Claressa Shields is not in a relationship at all. She is in a strategy, and she is the only participant who does not know the objective, the only one who showed up to a chess match believing it was a date. And then came the closing blow, delivered quietly, almost gently, which made it cut deeper than anything screamed in the previous 15 minutes. Tasha K looked into the camera and told Claressa Shields that if Papoose had any real respect for her, if he truly valued her, it would be just her. Only her. No campaign, no audience of one ex-wife, no rate card. And then she said something no opponent ever says. She said she hates to see her embarrassed like this. Read that again. The woman Claressa Shields sent lawyers after ended the video by expressing pity for her. And here is the hard truth about that. When the person across from you stops attacking and starts feeling sorry for you, you are no longer in a rivalry. You are in a situation. And situations do not end with scorecards or rematches. They end with exits, and the longer you wait to take one, the more expensive it gets. So let's run the whole night back because the recap alone reads like a season finale. A champion allegedly fought pregnant and starved herself 3 days to make weight, and nobody in that arena knew. A blogger apologized for one sentence and used it as cover to leave every other claim standing. A positive swab at the fight, a clean urine test the next day, and a suspension she says she did not earn. Allegations that the man at ringside is paid to be at ringside. A best friend whose livestream did more damage than any enemy ever could. A cease and desist that boomeranged into a defense. A relationship theory where every post is a message to Remy Ma. And a final word of compassion from the last person anyone expected to offer it. Every thread of this story leads to the same question, the only question that matters now. Who in Claressa Shields' circle was ever actually on her side? So I am leaving you with 2 questions tonight, and I want real answers in the comments, not emojis. Question 1. If the appearance fee claim is real, do you believe Claressa Shields knows exactly what this relationship costs her? Or do you think she genuinely cannot see the difference between support and a service? Question 2. If the entire public relationship is a campaign to pull Remy Ma's attention back, and Remy has responded to every single chapter of it, has the campaign already won? Drop your verdicts below because the comment section on this one is going to be a courtroom, and every single one of you is on the jury. This is the channel where the paperwork always tells the truth, and baby, next week's file is already thicker than this one. I will see you in the next upload.